At this moment, you should be with rare form, listening like we do, like you love to, and hopefully will again.
The following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Discretion is advised.
Do your thing, dude.
You want me to go?
Do your thing.
All right. So welcome to the program, Rare Form Radio.
Todd Newman, back in the house for this thrilling episode.
Yes.
Good to have you back. Good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy.
What's been happening?
Nothing on my end, really, all that much. But I know things
Same,
have been
dude.
happening for you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we should probably just get right into it, huh?
Yeah, just get into it. Like, nobody wants to hear us bullshitting and.
So what's New York like this time of year? I'm from Boston. New York's, Yeah. So
New York's way better than Boston.
you're talking to the wrong people. We all pretty much on tour agree that New York is, but that's all right. I didn't think we'd get into it so quickly after it happened, but I knew eventually we'd have to like just address the whole Jane's Addiction Boston fiasco.
Yeah. Which
is one of the craziest things I've ever been a part of in my life.
A fiasco it was.
Yes. Right?
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
So September 13th, Jane's Addiction played a show in Boston. Friday the 13th, Stephen Perkins' birthday. Mm-hmm. And it went off the rails, to say the least. So I figured, I think everyone in this room has like some form of compassion for everybody involved in the entire band and the crew. And, you know, you've been close with Dave for 25 years.
Yeah, almost 30 years. Yeah.
And you've also been very, very close with the band.
Yeah.
Since he's been back since 2008 or whatever, even before that maybe.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say we're all very sensitive to everybody's, relationships and everything. But there is some things that we do need to, I feel the need to clear up personally and on behalf of some people involved in everything.
Right.
So,
well, look here, the bottom line is you were there. Like you were probably the most seen person out of anything just because you're in the footage that went viral of it, because you are Dave's guitar tech. You work for the band collectively, but you work on Dave's side of the stage, correct?
On the last couple of years, or I've been working for Eric as well. So I've been Eric's bass tech and Dave's guitar tech at the same time.
Right.
Yep.
And where you stand is right there beside Dave, which is usually where I post up when I go to see the shows. Is I hang out with you.
Yeah.
And we watch Dave and we watch the band collectively. And so tell me what were you doing right before that happened?
We got to start at the beginning, kind of, because it all leads up to that. Like it all leads up to that moment. I was with Jane's. I think it's safe to say that the band is no more. I will just, I can't imagine them. People, I know the fan base and people want this to be able to be worked out. I personally just do not see that being a reality.
Right.
My personal opinion.
That's your personal opinion.
No one has said we are done, but like, we got to be real here.
Right.
Since my first moments being with the band, I have always noticed that Perry Farrell, who is a brilliant songwriter and an integral part of the whole Jane's everything, has always been very, very focused on production and how the show looks.
Right.
Before anything else. So that has a lot to do with where this whole entire situation will go. You know what I mean? Like he cares about like production and video content and dancers and
the stage show.
The stage show.
Yeah.
When, maybe, I'll say that's been his main focus since I've kind of been around. So that's sort of some stuff I want to kind of focus on for the rest of this. But my first bunch of years with Jane's was with Chris Chaney on bass, one of our close friends. I saw him yesterday. And for all that time, there was dancers on stage, and Perry was very much in charge of the stage show.
Right.
And it kind of was just an accepted thing, and it was fine. It was cool. When Eric Avery came back in the fold a couple years ago, there was a band kind of agreement made of like, let's try this again. They tried it in 2008, 2009,
Right.
and into 2010 with Eric coming back, and we had a great tour. They made some music together, but after a little bit of time, it kind of fell apart again for some similar reasons, or just Eric, it wasn't working for him, so he left. And actually, Taylor Hawkins was a big part of getting this thing back together again.
Right.
Obviously, before he passed away, it was his like kind of dream to see these guys do this one more time the right way.
Right.
And I think you remember knowing that too. So when Eric came back, a lot of band meetings and a lot of like everyone kind of excited about it.
Right.
And there was a decision made amongst everybody that they were going to be a democracy
Right.
going forward. And I don't even know if it was majority rule. It might have been even something like, if anyone doesn't like something, we move on.
Right,
We
right.
find something that we all agree on.
Right. But the point is that was the conditions for this to happen.
Yeah.
The original members, it's just got to be a democracy, and let's just move forward
With all
and try and
things.
make music. Yeah,
With
yeah.
all things. Like music being the number one most important thing. People are coming to these shows. Like, let's sound great.
Right.
Main thing. And then production stuff, we'll deal with that as it comes. I think was what was probably their main way of thinking. So when Eric first came back, Dave wasn't available because of long COVID. Did a couple tours with different guitar player, Troy Van Leeuwen, the first leg, and then Josh Klinghoffer, second leg. And we had dancers out on that tour. And I will say, the dancer part has never been a favorite part of the rest of the band.
Right, right.
It seemed, I think, to a lot of them to be just kind of like a somewhat unnecessary thing. Like, let's just go out as a band and focus on the music
right.
part. But it was like it went on for years. There's been dancers for forever with that band. And when Dave was ready to come back, and by the way, Dave did fight very, very hard to get back into this band.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that I'm one
His
of
best
Dave's,
friend.
Yeah, Dave's
His
best
best friend,
friend. And
yeah.
I saw firsthand, like, he was really sick. He was on the fence about whether he would even physically be able to do this stuff or not.
Yep.
And he really did fight his hardest to get back, be at every rehearsal, be at every writing session, just be there for, and like,
It was hard for him to watch other guys fill his shoes
yeah,
on tour.
oh yeah.
He welcomed it because it had to happen, but I do know for sure he didn't like seeing it. It hurt.
Of course, but he wanted the greater good of the band. Like, he wanted the fans to be able to see the shows. He wanted the band to be able to play. He just physically couldn't do
Yeah.
it, and did everything he could. I know he changed his diet. He did this. He did that. He did everything that he could. And I know during the European part of the tour, he would like have to stay in bed all day the next day just
Yeah.
to recover. Like,
He did whatever it took.
Did whatever it took.
And
right.
people will truly never know how much work he really did.
Yeah,
And it's kind of a long, boring story to know all the stuff that he did, but he did everything to get back to doing this.
Right,
So
right.
when he finally was able, it was a beautiful thing. Everyone was, I think, incredibly excited to, fan-wise, of course, but
Right.
as you and I, we're fans of the band.
Right,
so
right, right.
seeing the original four again
Right.
as like wiser, smarter, and better players, it
Right.
sounded very exciting. So at that point, before the European tour, the Democracy Talk came up. They started planning the tour, and it was decided, the majority of like, we just want to be four guys on stage, no backup singers, no dancers, none of that.
Yeah, old school. The music speaks for itself.
That's it.
Let's go
Yep.
and just play music and be awesome. Maybe some lighting.
Yep, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Or some video content, lights, just like let's be a rock show and let's connect the four of us and do this
Right.
thing together. And I do know that there was immediate pushback from Perry on that issue.
Right.
I understand this pushback. I also understand like pleading your case and fighting for something that you really, really want.
Right.
But the main thing is when there's a collective decision to do things as a democracy, as a group, you have to, at a certain point, let go of those things.
Right.
So, from my understanding, they did the European tour, no dancers. There was some pretty incredible shows out there. I missed the last 2 weeks. Dave got COVID. I mean, Dave got COVID again
and played
and did his part, even being sick out there again. So shows are great. Came back. We had a month off before this 10-week U.S. tour with Love and Rockets and the Crawlers. And this discussion of production obviously comes up again. And from what I gather, dancers were kind of trying to be worked back into the tour.
Right.
Etty, Perry's wife, being one of the dancers, and maybe one or two others. And it came back to like, well, we decided that this is just not something that the majority of the band wants. And more pushback, more problems from the Feral camp to the rest of the guys. And it got to the point where like they were trying to figure out video content, and Eric, Perkins, and Dave were working on stuff, hoping that Perry would be a part of that process of like coming up with cool video content that they all agreed upon.
Cool, artistic like
shit.
weird,
And
awesome
you've
stuff.
Seen some of it. I've seen some of it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And
I was even trying to push some of my own ideas in there at one point.
just Todd flexing in the mirror. Yeah, of course. And there was stuff where they presented stuff to Perry, and he's like, "I don't like that."
Right.
And the guys were like, "Cool, gone. It's
agreeably gone. That's what we agreed
done.
upon.
That's
to
democracy."
Do. Yeah.
One guy doesn't like it, we move on. Perry, it sounds like he was not getting involved in that process with the other guys
collectively, right?
So he took a camera crew into the desert and filmed content to present to the guys. And I think it got to a point where I don't think they even showed it in rehearsals, because Perry didn't come to rehearsals. That's one part we'll get to later on. But like the guys didn't see the stuff until we got to Vegas for the first show.
So Vegas, just for people who don't know, Las Vegas was the first night of the new like North American tour.
The very first show, 33 shows I think we had.
Which is
it's you. Sorry. Fuck, I don't have it. So yeah, it was the first show of 33 shows, and long story sort of short is Perry showed his stuff he created, and it was
kind of at the witching hour, like a few hours before the show.
And
correct?
Most of these people listening don't understand how production and tours work, but these are things that are usually worked out weeks, if not months before, like your first show. This was going up to the last minute, and I believe Perry presented some of his stuff, and it was more of Etty and maybe other women in the desert dancing, scantily clad, footage, and it was like another well, wait a minute, we kind of. That's not much different.
So it's basically we agreed to no dancers on the stage, but now you want to put them behind us dancing.
It's kind of the same thing. Like the overall band thing is like it is 2024. It's a bit of a different time,
right?
Having scantily clad chicks on stage or on video,
right?
I don't think it's as empowering as maybe the Ferals might think it is. I don't know. My personal opinion.
Right.
It doesn't seem like it feels
it's my
that
personal
way.
opinion too.
And I love looking at it too. I'm not against, barely almost naked chicks, and it's cool.
Right.
But as a band, they didn't want that.
Right.
So I remember, I can attest to this because I was there for this. After the first, and I believe maybe the only sound check of the entire tour in Vegas, there was an argument or a discussion. The four guys went off the side of the stage. We're talking privately that it kind of got a little heated.
Right. And this is just a few hours before the first show.
This is before the first show. No, nobody knows any of this stuff. And it got pretty heated. And it was, again, about this video content and about dancers, whether on the stage or not on the stage. And sort of, I'll say Perry, but it's coming from both. The Ferals sort of just couldn't let go of this thing, to the point that before the first show, Perry quit the band.
Right.
I need to make this very, very clear because, again, this matters later on.
Right.
Perry quit the band told the band he's going back to the hotel and like he's done.
Right.
Which left everybody being like, well, what the fuck is happening?
Right.
You know, the band was not upset about that. Like they just want to play shows. They want to do this tour.
Right.
And which it's just crazy to think about. So Perry kind of left the stage. We kind of didn't know what was going on for a while. The crew was kind of scrambling like, are we playing a show? Are we going home? Is this tour over? Just turmoil. And then after that, the next thing I remember is Etty kind of being in this backstage, but in this communal area where backstage is usually like a house production office where people that work the venue have their own office, and then a tour production office, and then all the dressing rooms, and everything's kind of in the same kind of corridor. And I remember being back there, and she's just kind of out in this like public area yelling about how Perry is going home, the tour is over. And this is in front of like our Live Nation reps, who are the people that basically
Promote the tour?
front the bill for the tour,
Right.
promote it. And like when they start hearing that like people are going home before the first show, obviously they get very squirrely and very concerned. And you were in Vegas for this point. You came out for this show.
Yes, I was in Vegas. I came out for the show. I was hanging out with Dave all day, and then I basically parked myself in the dressing room. The guys have the three, Eric and Steven and Dave have their own dressing room.
Which is nothing new. That's not.
Yeah, that's not a new
always
thing.
been a
And Perry has his with his family or whatever. So I was just kind of sitting in there, and I couldn't hear what was being said, but obviously I knew something was going on. And then when the guys came in one after the other, I started to get the gist of what had just happened, and that there was an argument, and that Perry had quit the band and he was going home, and it was very uncertain what to do. So immediately from what I saw, the guys are like, well, what do we do? What do we do? They don't want to disappoint the fans. There's, we're a few hours away from showtime. So they collectively decided like, well, we should just go and play anyway. And ideas were being thrown out like, do we know any people who would know the songs that are in Vegas? Or do we just play instrumental and say, if you know the words, sing along? Like, we're having a problem with the lead singer. He's, not showing up.
They wanted to give a fan
They wanted
a
to
show
give
no
the
matter
fans a
what.
show no matter what.
Yep.
And then it was just me, the guys, and a couple of other people in the dressing room. And Etty came in there. It was after, I think, the stuff that you were hearing in the hallway.
Right.
And was yelling about the video content and stuff. And one of the guys, I can't attest to who it was that said, but this is supposed to be a democracy. We agreed upon that, and we voted no. And she was screaming, this is not a democracy, not about this.
Whoa.
And I was just like, oh, okay.
I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, so I was like, okay. And then she left. I think that actually might have been before, and then she was out in the hallway screaming. I don't remember the turn of events. But and then the guys were just like, what the fuck? This is before the first show. Like, what do we do? What do we do? So they just acted as if we're going to play no matter what. Like, we don't want to disappoint the people that are out there.
Right.
The people that are lining up already. And like, we're like 2 hours away, maybe.
It was crunch time.
Yeah, it was.
I think when all it was going down, like doors were open. Like people are coming into the building. People are coming into the venue at
people
this
were
point.
already coming in. Yeah. Because I was already getting texts like, I'm here. Like, I knew people were showing up in Vegas. I had some friends that were coming to the show as well.
Yep.
And then I guess at the witching hour, he came back. I don't know.
It took a lot of work. I do, and I'm not going to get into.
Yeah. I'm assuming because like people don't understand how many people were on phones and making calls and like it was scramble
We'll just say
time.
management earned their keep.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
day.
It was,
Yeah. Which again, this happened. This kind of stuff, maybe not this kind, but like this. Disagreements happen in bands all the time, especially good ones.
It happens anything, any kind of show, any relationship. Yeah, it happens.
Yep.
So, I was just like, kind of just sitting there like, I don't know what the fuck how to feel about this or whatever.
And you're being a good friend. You're also trying to keep vibes as good as possible.
Being supportive, making inappropriate jokes.
Of course.
And like, trying my best to keep.
Because there's a lot of pressure, by the way. The band's under a lot of pressure. All four of them are under a lot of pressure on this tour. It's Dave's first time back in America.
Right.
It's the four original guys starting a 10-week tour, which is a very, very long tour. Where you do have to kind of pace yourself and just take care of yourself.
Right.
Really.
And for this to happen the night of the very first show is like, this is not good.
So throughout the whole, we only made it 5 weeks into the tour, but friends and family always ask like, how are things? And I told people, I said, this one has felt weird from day one. And I never got into why, but this is why it felt weird from day one. And it was that show, that first
Well, it didn't
day,
feel weird. It was weird.
It was weird. It was weird.
It was just weird.
And from that day forward, like, and I also want to say this, make this very clear. I owe Perry a lot I've been there 17 years. Without him, I don't have this career with a band that I love so much. He's been generous. Etty has been incredibly generous. Whenever there's issues with the crew, whether it's, we're having bus problems, or the hotels are shit, or we're being treated unfairly by somebody, Etty has always been the first person, and thank you, Etty, has been the first person to go and take care of this shit. They do have big hearts, and they can be very, very generous people, but that aside, this is a different thing. I'm not I don't want to diminish. This is not a hit piece on the Pharaohs at all, because I'm very sad at the way all of this has gone. So this is all love towards them too, but we do need to set some things straight.
Right.
So from that point, Perry did kind of pull away from his bandmates, and it was clear every day. Like there was tension. Almost a lot of tension. From what I understand, like almost no communication as far as like they go in the jam room, what song you want to try, but no joyful interactions, no talk. Perry never did band introductions on stage, which he's been doing for many, many years. And it feels like, my feeling, that it was like, if my wife can't be on stage, I'm not happy, and I'm not kind of going to do this, or I'm not going to give it my all.
Right.
And it kind of bummed him out for the whole tour, which sucks, but that's what it felt like.
Right.
It was like either this happens or, you're not going to get my all, which is unfortunate. Do you have any sense of that? Do you have any kind of,
I mean, I wasn't there for a lot of the tour. I went to the LA show, which was right after the Vegas show, I think. I think it was the second date.
Which one?
The LA at the YouTube
Third show.
Theater.
Third show.
That was the third show.
Yep.
So I went to the first show. I went to the third show. Those are the only shows that I went.
Yep.
I had plans to come to other shows, and just my life didn't allow me to.
Right.
I had a sense that there was tension and things were weird. Obviously I'm Dave's friend. Everybody that is a fan of his, I guess, knows that.
Yeah, of course.
Done films together. We've done radio together for years and years and years. So of course he's telling me stuff as the tour goes. So I got a sense that the things are a little off. But everybody's trying collectively to be supportive. Even when there are things like Perry quitting the first night or whatever, it was still like, okay, let's put that behind us and let's focus on tonight and move forward, was the attitude that he kept telling me about. So I was like, okay, well, that's what you do. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's the best way to problem solve.
Yes.
Put it behind you, move forward. So, I like I said, I didn't go to all the shows, so more than me in that respect. But it was a little. I picked up on it because I was jaded already, because I saw what happened the very first night of before the first show.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, if first impressions set the tone, like these guys need to get some. To work it out a little bit, or it's going to be bad. That shit's going to happen. Yeah.
And I just want to say, like, even after that kind of weirdness, the band did continue to support Perry through the entire tour. Like, if there's ever parts where he was, I'm not gonna say he struggled a lot, but like if he wasn't quite sure what part of the song they were in, they would go and say, here we are. If he had a great show, they were the first people to be like, that was fucking great.
Awesome.
You're amazing. That was wonderful. So there's been like talk, which we're going to break down some stuff later on, but some talk of there being like the fight that ended up happening in Boston was brought on by sound issues on stage. And I have to push back on that in a big way, because this one's tough to talk about because it has to do with like, are there other factors involved than just stage stuff?
Right.
Whether it's substances or whatever. I don't like to, I don't know even how to get into it, but like there were other factors besides what's going on stage.
Right.
And I don't like to do it, but I have to point to 3 shows specifically. There was a show in Tampa, Florida, which anyone can Google. There is a scathing article about that show. Like where it's like, holy shit. It's like, call the police. There's been a murder.
Right.
Like it's a tough article, but it also is kind of spot on.
Right.
And there was we did 2 shows in New York, back-to-back nights. The first show was the worst show I've ever seen in my life. I'm not saying just with Jane's, the worst show I've ever seen.
Right.
And the Boston show.
Right.
And I need to make this very, very clear. And I don't want to talk about people's personal shit, but when, Etty Farrell goes on social media and says this has to do with sound issues on stage, I have to say that's fucking bullshit.
Right.
Because the Tampa show, the New York show, and the Boston show, I'm sorry, but Perry was fucked up. Okay?
Well, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I'm from New York. I had a lot of friends that went to the show.
Yes.
Got tickets, went to the show.
Yes.
And I started getting texts in real time and video clips sent to me of people in the crowd, my friends sending me like WTF in capitals, which I hate texting that way, just for the record, but WTF.
WHY.
WTF. This guy's out of his mind, fucked up. He's incoherent, just
of course.
It's like
people talking shit.
Yeah, I'm not a fucking moron. I can see the clips and okay, there's something going on.
And I'm not against people partying.
No,
I take
did
edibles
it for a good portion of my life.
I take edibles all the time, but and again, I'm not. This is not supposed to be a pick on Perry thing, but like the 3 worst shows, this man clearly was fucked up. And we knew it from the moment we saw him earlier in the day.
Right.
There's like staggering. There's like looking at you, looking right through you, stumbling words. Those 3 shows, often in those songs through the whole set, he didn't know where he was in the songs. He didn't know the words. He was singing words from other songs. These are not sound issues.
Right.
And if they were, he would have looked towards Monitor World and said, hey, I don't know what the fuck is happening. Help me.
Right.
That never happened.
Right.
And also, he had a bunch of fantastic shows throughout the tour. The sound doesn't change. We're the same all the time. There's been claims, not on social media, that the people being accused of amp volume getting louder every show, and even during the show, volume going up. That doesn't happen. I am in charge of all the amp volume on stage, and I have been for 17 years for everybody. Dave has not gotten louder in probably 15 years.
I spoke to Dave, and he told me the last time he touched a volume knob was maybe in Bush Hall in London.
The first show of the European
very
tour.
first show of him coming back.
Right.
Which would make sense.
So, and so Perry has made a comment before about volume being too loud. And we try to address it. But with Dave's amps, a big part of the way Dave plays is being able to get feedback. If you don't want feedback, it's like he uses it like an instrument. He uses it like it's a note that he plays.
Right.
His amps have to be at a certain volume to get that feedback.
Right.
And that volume is not very loud. So I think in Europe, we found that sweet spot because Perry said things were too loud on stage, which I have to say, they're just not.
Right.
They're just not. So we brought it as low as we could go with Dave still being able to do his job. When we were in rehearsals, probably before Europe, Eric's playing bass. He wears in-ears.
Right.
He doesn't use a lot of stage volume anyway.
Right.
At one point, Perry asked him to turn his bass down, which is already quiet. I remember Eric said, he goes, okay, let me bring it down to 2. Like his amp goes to 10. You know what I mean? Like it's just, these are not real problems.
Right. Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Because just you have the knowledge that I don't.
Yeah.
So in-ears, right?
Yes.
They're like
In-ear monitors,
in-ear
which is what we're wearing right now.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So like I don't even know to me they're headphones like that I would wear with a Walkman.
They're
A
headphones.
cassette Walkman. Like that's where
Yeah.
I have no knowledge. So when the guys wear in-ears, that cancels out all the noise except for what they need to hear.
When you
right?
like these things that I'm wearing are like $2,000 to $3,000.
Right.
You go to an audiologist. They take this like foam filler stuff. They take a mold of your entire ear canal so that these things can like roll and fit in to literally block out all that other noise.
Right.
So you have a tight fit so you can mix your audio, and every guy on stage has their own mix.
Right.
So if a guitar player usually wants a little bit more guitar so they can hear what they're doing. Singers are no different, but everyone can kind of completely fine tune your audio mix. And we have one of the best sound teams in live music as far as monitors and our front of house goes. 2 of the best in the business, hands down. So that was never worked on. That was never like, or Perry never like worked on that once the tour started going.
Right.
And also all he has in his ears is his vocal,
Right.
and it's that makes things very difficult too.
Right.
Was that your question?
No, well, my question was, I mean, just if you're wearing in-ears and you have a certain mix, I know enough to know that, like, say with that band, Dave's mix is probably not the same as Steven's mix. Like, there's different instruments that are allowed. Dave doesn't wear them.
has 2 wedges right in front of his guitar.
Right, which are monitors, so he can hear
Yes.
certain instruments that need to come through, so he could tell where he's at in the song or whatever it is.
The way those work, those are very directional. So they point right at Dave's face.
Right.
If you go like this, if you lean away,
Yeah.
you lose a lot of it.
Yeah,
you really
yeah,
do. If you walk in front of it, you're going to hear it. But it's very directional.
So my question is if you're wearing the in-ears and they're canceling everything else out, how can shit be too loud still?
So that's a really good question, isn't it? It's almost like that's not the issue.
Right,
That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
That's exactly what they're for, is so you have complete control over what you hear.
Right. I mean, you got
But
bands
historically-
like Slipknot. How does Corey Taylor hear?
Yeah, there's fucking 9 drummers on stage,
Yeah,
multiple guitar players.
They're a little louder than Jane's
and
Addiction.
he sounds perfect.
Right.
And again, I want to point back to the fact that there were some fantastic shows from Jane's, from Perry, where Perry were like, I would go after the show, before I even packed up, I would go and find him and be like, that was incredible to him.
The Vegas one, even after all that shit, the Vegas
Great.
show was a great show.
Great.
And I've seen them consistently for years and years and years. And I was like, that was, even with all that shit aside that I just saw, that was fucking great.
And again, I'm even going to give the benefit of the doubt, because singing is, I don't know how singers do it.
Right.
It probably is the hardest job on stage next to being a drummer. But like, as far as, with a guitar, you put your finger in the right spot. That's the note.
It's the note. Yeah.
If you have someone as good at their job as I am, it's where it goes. But singers, it's
That's why Dave hits a lot of wrong notes.
you son of a bitch. But when you're singing, you really, it's so easy to hit a wrong note. So I give him full credit for what a great singer he is.
Right.
When he's in his right mind.
Right.
And when he's soberish. You know what I mean?
Right.
And these 3 shows specifically, he wasn't. And there wants to be talk. People are saying that he was drunk, that, the wine bottle on stage, all he drinks is wine. He isn't drinking a shitload of wine on stage. It's part of it. Yes, he's drinking wine, but this is not an issue of being intoxicated. There's something else going on. And it might even be something, he might be having emotional issues, which I think might be part of it too, which I want to get to. And I care about him. I really do
that's
care.
The thing is, like,
I need to make that very, very clear.
Yeah, when I see this stuff and when friends send me clips in real time at shows where it's not. No, it's not, and I feel bad.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the guys. I feel bad for him. Like it's someone who's struggling.
Yes,
you know what I mean. And
yes,
I don't feel like it's sad
when he has a tough night. All of us in a way feel like we had a tough night, and that works for any guy in the band.
Right.
If Perkins has a rough night, which he just doesn't, but if someone does, like Dave's had some nights where it's just like things are just not clicking.
Right.
Okay, well, that sucks. We went through it together. Let's do better tomorrow.
And it's usually your fault because you're his tech.
I wouldn't say that.
Right.
But this fucker's nodding over here. I don't appreciate that one bit. But we really, I truly, like, we are all pulling for each other.
Right.
If the band is great, the crew gets on the bus. When they have a great show, it really does. We do kind of ride high into the next show.
Right.
Like in sports, if your team loses, it sucks, but you have a chance the next game to make up for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that all of us kind of feel that way. And I know the band guys do.
Right.
And there's plenty of shows where they're like, that show was fine, collectively.
Mm-hmm.
So this New York show especially, you have to have good shows in LA and you have to have good shows in New York.
Right.
There's a lot of press there. It's too important.
Press,
cities for
friends of the band,
of course,
people in the know, that kind of thing.
Yes. So they had these two shows in New York on a rooftop in a place called Pier 17, just a stunning like 360 view in New York, kind of right by the 9/11 where the towers were. Pretty. Have you been to this spot before?
The Freedom Towers?
No. Have you been to the Pier 17?
No.
Pier 17, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
But two shows that I think we're all excited about. The band, of course, is excited about because they love New York for some reason. I don't get it. And this was one of those nights where he just, I didn't even know how to describe what was happening. If you play music, you'll understand that, singing in time with the band, that is what songs are. That's what singing is. Mm-hmm. For all three of these shows, but for this one was like astounding because he would either be like a full bar before the band or a full bar in front of the band where like he's ahead in the song or behind in the song and just stayed there for the whole song. Like he couldn't, literally didn't know where they were in the songs. And it was like, it was almost like its own feat. It was amazing that it was able to happen.
Right.
And there were times during these shows when the band, I believe, is hoping that he would kind of figure out where he was at and catch it and fix it. Mm-hmm. But when that wouldn't happen, Eric and Dave would walk up to Perkins and they would, as they're playing the song, trying to figure out how do we get to where he's at? How do we, basically, we're going to help him because this isn't working for any of us. Mm-hmm. Let's figure this out. Which sometimes it worked, sometimes it led to these train wrecks, and but they never stopped trying to get the best out of him.
Right.
And it was hard. It was hard to watch. And after that New York show, there was I'll say a very heated discussion backstage about how you basically can't turn in performances like that. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say this. This is before that New York show, the bad one. Mm-hmm. Perry came up to Navarro and said, "You're taking too long." And Dave's like, "What do you mean I'm taking too long? At the end of songs, am I playing too much?" Mm-hmm. And he said, "No, at the end of the shows, you're taking too long." And again, Dave was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, You're taking all your guitar picks and you're pulling up set lists and you're giving them to the fans." And Dave's like, "Yeah." By the way, Dave historically didn't do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But over the last year and a half or so, he has gotten a lot of joy. Mm-hmm. It's been good for him to connect with his fans, which he hasn't done in that way since I've been around. You know that. He's like, he doesn't really throw guitar picks out.
Right.
He's not like jumping down and taking pictures with people.
Right.
On this tour, he was doing that.
Right.
And it made him feel good.
Right.
And he knew it was doing good for the fans.
Right.
At the end of the show, he'd grab all of his picks, he'd throw them out in the crowd, he'd pull up his set list, jump down, give it to somebody, he'd grab Eric's set list, jump down, and give it to somebody. Perry criticized him for doing that, saying that it was ruining the mystique of the band, which Dave was kind of taken aback by. Like, he's connecting. By the way, the band's been around for 40 years.
Right.
Like, there's no mystique after that time.
Yeah,
They've all had TV shows. Like, the mystique is. By the way, Perry's wife was on a TV show.
Right.
Dave was on a TV show. Like, the mystique is that's gone.
Right.
So that was before this New York show. So after this very rough performance,
Which, mind you, as a fan
Yeah.
myself, that's my favorite as a kid anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, or even as an adult, when you're at a show and you get a pick or like something like that,
you'll
it's like,
never forget it.
yeah, and I have mine in my safe.
Which
at
one?
home.
What?
Like, all of the picks
really?
I've ever gotten from,
Yeah.
you know, I took my son to go see Buddy Guy recently,
Right.
and we got pics from him. We have them fucking framed in little lucite boxes. Like,
You'll never forget it.
it's just one of the fans' favorite things to have a memento, you know.
And
So,
also,
but anyway, you
and
know,
also on this tour,
that's just a personal, like,
Sure.
I don't think there's anything wrong with
No.
that. I think it's a great thing.
they were selling these VIP packages on this tour too, where you could pay a good amount of money and you can watch the show from the stage, like standing next to me, basically, up to 20 people standing on stage, seeing the show from the point of view that you get all the time, which is very special.
Right.
Imagine being able to go.
Well, someone did come up to me and try and charge me for.
Oh, really? Yeah, you should have paid. But like, imagine being if we weren't in the positions that we're in. Being able to do that is amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So all they were paying for is being able to be there. They get a little like VIP package and like probably a T-shirt, a bag, and some cool shit.
right.
That was the only obligation the band had, was just to let them be there.
Right.
Before these shows, Dave was going up, saying hi to all of them before the show. He would come grab a handful of guitar picks, hand deliver to each person in the VIP room. He didn't have to do that.
Right.
But it was connecting with the fan base and bringing him joy.
Yeah.
Perry told him not to do that and criticized him for it,
Right.
which bummed him out.
Right.
So Perry turns in this really rough show in New York. Like I said, it was the worst show I think I've ever seen in my life. And again, the band was great. The three guys were great.
Right.
I'm sorry, but one guy didn't pull his weight.
Right. Right.
And it led to an argument backstage. A very, very heated argument where I think they actually did some good work. They heard each other. Heard, not hurt.
Yeah.
They heard each other.
Yeah.
Got stuff off their chest. I think they all needed to. And the next night was September 11th in New York.
Right.
Obviously a very, very important day. I don't know. I forget why, but
Right.
but we're on this rooftop. These, these like memorial lights coming up into the sky where the towers were.
Right.
It was
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like an important day.
Yeah.
It was. I think the whole crew, we all felt very privileged to be there for that.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really neat.
Yeah.
And after what had been happening, after a string of some kind of rough shows and like just bad vibes and problems before that show, Navarro pulling Perry in, hugging before the show. I love you. Let's go kick some ass. Oh, and the argument the night before ended with like, listen, we can either go home, cancel this whole thing, or we can squash it and go kick some fucking ass tomorrow.
Yeah.
What do we do? And everyone's like, let's kick some ass tomorrow.
Right, which Dave
in
told
New
me
York.
about that, and
Beautiful.
that's the way to do it. Get
Yeah.
it all out. Let's put it behind us.
Again, sports
move
stuff.
Forward.
It's just like,
Move forward. Yeah,
as a team again.
Yeah.
And it felt like great. So they go out before that show, hugging, like let's do this, unified. It was awesome, and they turned in probably one of the best shows I've ever seen the band do in 17 years.
Right.
It was magic.
right.
Just again on that day in New York, this stunning view. Brooklyn Bridge is behind us. They're on fire. Just hitting all the cues. When you see a good show, you know it's a good show.
Yeah.
Especially when you see so many. The good ones are like that was. If I feel like if I clock one as being a good show, that means it was a really, really good show.
Right.
Wonderful. So we're all stoked. Then we have a day off in Massachusetts.
Right.
Take the day and go see my dad, and it was wonderful. My dad asked me how the tour is. I'm like, it's been weird. It's been very, very weird.
Right.
And he's like, why? And I kind of just like, I don't know. Just things just feel off. Little did I know that the next day was going to be the Boston show, my hometown show. I'm stoked. I got my little brother coming, my sister, My 15-year-old niece who's never seen me work. I'm like, I want to see you. Come out and see what I do for a living.
Right.
All my high school friends, a couple ex-girlfriends, everyone. And I surprised them all. And I'm like, you guys come watch the show on stage with us.
Right.
And they're all stoked. They'd never done that before. So it was cool.
Yeah.
So they're next to me. And, you know, we're there during the day setting up, and the band comes in later because they're driving from New York. They're hubbing out of New York.
Right.
The Farrells show up again. And again, this just sounds like but I'm not trying to do that, but I need to make this stuff clear.
You're saying what you saw.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it is what it is.
He gets off the bus and he's walking to his dressing room, and someone else in the crew says like, oh man, this is going to be another New York show. What do you mean? They're like, this might be worse than New York as far as the state that he was in, which I'm just saying, like, there's a theme here that's not just about sound. Like we knew before the Boston show that it was not going to go smooth.
Right.
And the show starts. The three other guys in the band are walking out, ready to do a great show. And from the get, he's just kind of off again. He's behind. He's in front of everything. Wrong lyrics. Just a tough, struggling.
Yeah.
Because he's also like kind of half asleep.
Right.
It almost felt like. And it just we all kind of just felt shit sort of going sideways. Mountain Song, one of the most popular Jane songs.
Right.
It's
a fan favorite.
Yeah,
for sure.
for sure. There's a part that's, you know, everyone has seen the main clip of the altercation, which we'll get into as well. But earlier in the set, there's video of Mountain Song where people are pointing out that like Dave is pretty straight-faced, not really like having a vibey good time. And it's kind of happening throughout the band. And there's a clip going around where he goes over and like taps Perry on the arm and says, I'm going to go over here. What he's doing is he's saying, I'm going to take my solo again because you just sang over it a minute ago.
Right.
And I stopped because you don't know where you're at.
Right.
Which was, again, a theme of a handful of these shows.
Right.
He didn't know where he was in the song. So he goes over, plays a solo, and then at one point, it's either during that song or a different song, Eric, Dave, and Perry and Perkins are kind of having a huddle again, trying to figure out what's going on. And I remember looking over it, and Perry turns back and sees that, and immediately gets irritated because I think in his mind there's some sort of paranoia or something going on there,
right.
And it sucks because these guys just want to have a great show, the four of them. If Perry has a rough night, they're not happy. They want him to kick ass every night. No one wants him to fail.
Yeah, of course.
They care about him and care about if their own band. So Perry sees them talking. It feels like he thinks they're talking about him,
right?
Which they are, but not in the way that he thinks. They're trying to figure out how to fix
how to help
stuff,
them, right? How to help the show, yeah.
Right? So he goes over and starts like screaming lyrics at them, which was just strange. Like he was angry at them, but he doesn't know what's going on. He can't see it. Obviously, he's busy playing to the crowd, but I'm watching the whole stage.
Right.
The crew's watching the whole stage. We can clock what's happening,
right?
And then we finally get to Ocean Size. Which is, you know, my favorite song on the set. And it's, you could feel tension building the whole night. We get to Ocean Size, they're playing, Perry doesn't know where he's at. And there's been a comment made that they fucked up the intro of his vocal cue, which is when he says 3, 4,
right, which is probably one of the most famous rock intros.
Iconic.
Yeah, it's iconic.
Dave starts with quiet, clean guitar.
Right.
Nothing loud, quiet, gently clean guitar. Then he strums it out. It hangs. Perry can yell 3, 4 whenever he wants to.
Right. He's in control, basically.
Complete control.
Yeah, the 3, 4 is pending
Cue is
on
him. It's
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
He can
yeah.
wait 2 minutes.
Right,
and sometimes the more you wait,
the funner it is.
Of
Yeah,
course, because
building,
the crowd is ready for it. The crowd sings along with it. They know what's coming.
Yeah.
And there's been
Incidental little side note.
Yeah.
Dave was sweet enough to one time play at my daughter's school, and they practiced, and they did that song where Dave did an acoustic version.
Didn't you post Lola singing it?
Yeah, so Lola's singing it. She's little, and Lola's singing it for her talent show.
Yeah.
And she brought Uncle Dave, and he played the acoustic, and he plays that part. And then there's the Lola was scared to do the 3/4 part, so she's kind of just waiting, and for Dave to go down, and someone in the all the parents are watching. It's daytime, it's a school day, and one of the parents screams out 3/4.
Oh, did they?
That's how iconic it is.
Yeah.
That like everybody knows that.
There's
part.
not a more famous 3/4 in rock music, I'll say.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't think.
Exactly.
So there's claims after the fact that they fucked up that part. That's just not the case. So during Ocean Size, that's when things really kind of fell apart for the entire band and for the history of the band. It all fell apart in this moment. So you've seen the clips, you've seen the video clips. There's a part where, should we play the audio? Should we play it now? What do you want?
Before we play it, let's. This is kind of what I want. What I opened the show with. So it's full circle.
Sure.
So you're standing there. You see that things are getting weird, and that the tension is building, and things could potentially fall apart.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in your point of view from the side of the stage when that moment is about to happen?
Oh, the bad moment?
The bad moment is about to happen.
That's a very good question. I've watched this band play hundreds of times, and there's all kinds of stuff that people that see the band a bunch, you too. Like there's certain things that you see that no one will ever pick up on.
Right.
Cues between the members of like we're gonna do this part now, or like where are we at, or let's do this cool thing, or whatever the fuck. They all have these little things. But this one felt like this is Perry is getting angrier and more detached, and like it's almost like when someone becomes a werewolf. Like things just kind of start
like a psychotic break.
Yeah. That's kind of yes. Eyes change, body language changes, and he's lost in the song. So I can't tell if he's frustrated because he's lost or frustrated over something else. But he's just kind of like grunting and yelling, and it's just weird. It's strange, and it's hard to watch because he looks and sounds out of control,
right?
And that hurts because. Again, I want him to be great every night.
Right.
Nothing makes me happier than he has a fantastic show.
Right.
And he comes over, he starts yelling like, well, let me play this audio. He starts kind of berating the band and like saying like, fuck these motherfuckers. This is the isolated vocal track from his microphone. So
it's his mic. It's
just his mic.
Yeah,
This is mic. So check this out. You can hear the band a bit in the background.
Yeah.
He's in the wrong spot.
Wanna be more like the ocean. I'm not talking baby all action. No, I'm talking
Wrong spot.
all action. Yeah.
Stop.
Say oh.
That sounds like just frustration, but check this out.
Fuck these motherfuckers!
The band.
Fuck them! Fuck them! Fuck him!
That's when he hits Dave, pushes Dave. Punch. He's being subdued.
Don't, Eric. Don't, Eric. Eric, let him go. Let him go.
Okay, I'm gonna pause this for 1 second here. So I see the push when he starts saying "fuck these motherfuckers."
Right.
I have my inners in, and I'm like, I clocked that right away. I'm like,
Right.
this is different.
Right.
I think I just my spidey senses went up. I'm like,
Right.
this is getting bad.
Right.
He pointed at Eric and said, "Fuck you, fuck him." Eric kind of laughed, like, "Okay, whatever." And I think we all started feeling like, "Okay, this is not good." He goes over and he pushes Dave. I'm tuning a guitar. I see the push. Guitar comes right off, and I make a beeline right for both of those guys. And this is where it gets like real sad. I sort of grew up like sort of defending my mom a little bit, like physically defending my mom sometimes, defending my little sister against somebody, whatever.
Right.
Not my dad, but somebody.
Yeah.
I love Dave. It's making me sad actually.
Yeah.
But it felt like seeing a little kid getting bullied on the schoolyard
Yeah.
for something he didn't do.
Yeah.
And he's been through enough shit in his life and did work so hard to get back to this point.
Right.
And to see that happen, it just triggered something in me. It made me really upset.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not going to let this happen to this guy. Eric had the same feeling. And I know I've talked to Eric many times about like childhood stuff. And like, he was the same way where like, I bet you're the same way where I'm more likely to get into a fight for my friends than I am for myself.
Right.
I'll
Absolutely.
de-escalate for myself, but I'll fight for a friend of mine or
The
something.
last fight I got into was protecting Dave.
In Vegas?
In
Yeah.
Reno.
Oh, Reno, yeah. So I just wanted to stop that from happening. I didn't want Perry to go too far. I didn't want Dave to get hurt. And I just hated that this was happening.
Right.
So it was just reaction. There's no thinking. It was just like reactionary, get between them. Eric comes over and helps. He grabs Perry. We're both getting Perry away from Dave. Eric gets him in kind of like a headlock, and Perry is still flailing away. And there's video.
Yeah, you could see it plain as day. Yeah.
Eric punches Perry, like these 2 body shots, like in the stomach. And on video, it's a guy punching another guy. I've talked to Eric about this, about the entire thing. You've been in fights. We've all been in fights before. There's a thing that happens before you get into a fight usually where I call it the fight butterflies. Your adrenaline is going crazy. You're almost like shaking, anticipation of like shit's going to go down. You know what I'm talking about? You've had this before? And especially after a fight, you're wound up like crazy. Like you're beaming.
Yeah.
It's like a protective, whatever the fuck. Eric said to me after this happened that he saw Perry go after Dave, and he same kind of thing, like just I gotta help my friend, like help de-escalate this. He pulled Perry away. Perry wasn't responding to being pulled away. And Eric said, I didn't know how to get his attention. I had to get his attention to get him to try to stop him from going towards Dave again.
Right.
And he said, at no point of me walking over there did I have that adrenaline. I didn't anticipate doing that. That's what he said. He didn't have the fight butterflies. He wasn't like, this is my chance. He didn't run over.
Right.
He walked over as Eric does. He's a calm person.
Yeah, he's very calm.
Very,
person.
very calm. Very level-headed.
Yeah, I was just going to say very logical, very pragmatic for sure.
Very, very much so. So he did that, and he said even after that happened, when he walked away from Perry, his heart rate was normal. He wasn't like buzzing with that adrenaline. It was just trying to like a bullfighter or the clowns at a rodeo, being like, look over here, like trying to divert Perry's attention from Dave.
From Dave, yeah.
So they break up, and now this is something that we're going to talk about that no one in the public knows yet, but they need to.
Right.
After the altercation that's on video, Perry punches Dave in the face again backstage. Hasn't been talked about. I'm sure you know this at this point.
I know about it.
Now, no one in the band is going to come out and be like, listen, this guy, he punched me, he punched Dave, whatever. Right. But I'm upset about it because when you see people spinning it or Etty being like, focusing on Eric punching Perry twice, like saying they're cheap shots.
Cheap shots, yeah. It's just.
I'm
not
sorry
the
if
case,
someone
yeah.
if someone goes after my friend and I defend them, those aren't cheap shots. It's called defense.
Well,
also,
when
ahead,
someone
please.
throws a punch
Yeah.
at somebody, and they body check them and then throw a punch at them, and then people are pushing them back, and someone grabs them and tries to punch him to get him to calm down.
Yeah.
That's not a cheap shot. A cheap shot is someone's not looking.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
walk up very quietly and then you blast them
You
when
mean
they're not
almost
ready
like
for
what
him.
Perry did to Dave the first thing he did?
Right, exactly.
That's a cheap shot.
And because let's not forget, I mean, again, I wasn't there, but I've seen several angles of video footage of it. And Dave is still looking down playing when this thing
He finishes the shred, which is pretty.
Yeah,
You're right. You're
yeah,
right.
That's actually a good point.
He's looking at Perry being like, "What's going on?" He's
and
still
he's
ripping.
still playing. So for when you're looking down and you're playing, and then so you look up and someone's just in your face, like, let's just leave cheap shot out of the fucking equation.
Yeah.
Completely.
By the way,
even
if Eric had kicked Perry's fucking ass, it's not a cheap shot.
It's not a cheap shot.
It's deserved.
Yeah.
And I told Etty after this. I was texting with her afterwards. It was over. I texted her. I said, "Is Perry okay?"
Right.
Because I am concerned.
Of course.
And I meant physically. I meant
Yeah.
emotionally. I meant like we're
Yeah,
all
of course.
completely shocked. But I told her. I said she started saying before Eric took his cheap shots, and I texted back. I said, Eric did what I wanted to do.
Right.
Like. And also, he wasn't trying to hurt him. We were all trying to protect Dave.
Yeah.
And also, your husband threw the first and the last punch of the night.
Right.
And again, I want people to understand this. It didn't end there. We actually have it on this recording here.
Come on. It's okay. Come on, Perry.
Oh, fuck that motherfucker up. This is Perry being consoled.
Come on, buddy. No. Let's go.
Eventually, Dave walks up to ask what the fuck happened, and Perry punches him again.
Come on. Calm down. Calm down, Perry. It's okay, Perry. It's okay. Calm down. Calm down. Come on.
That's Etty. What happened? What happened? Trying to fuck my show up. Here's Dave.
The fuck was that, you motherfucker? Get the fuck out of here. I'm never playing with you again, you fucking piece of shit. Come on,
Right there.
That's the punch. Yeah.
Was Perry punching Dave. And that one he actually connected with.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Right hand
Yeah.
to the left side of Dave's face.
Right.
Okay, so any of this talk of cheap shots,
Right.
like this guy, I feel for him because something is going on mentally, but he looked crazed, he was acting crazed, and this shouldn't have happened.
Right.
And it's very unfortunate. What was your feeling seeing it happen? And when you how did you
It's
see the
weird
video
because
first?
how did I see the video first? I saw it was up within minutes of the show somewhere. I was on the phone with a friend, FaceTiming, just totally removed, like nothing to do with the band or anything. We're just having a conversation, and she says to me, "Did Perry just punch Dave in the face?" And I go, "What? What are you talking about?" She's like, "I have a friend who's in Boston who's at the show and just texted me that." And I'm like, I don't know. Dave would have told me. Like, I'm not even
Right.
registering that this
happened
just
right
happened.
now.
you know?
Right.
I'm like, no, are you kidding me? Dave would have fucking told me right away. And I'm like, huh, what? So I said, let me call you back. And I go online and search, whatever, and it comes up. It was like a Twitter video or whatever. And I'm like, I'm watching it, and immediately I get protective, like I'm like, you know what I mean?
It's your
like,
friend.
Yeah, it's my
And
friend.
I think you probably felt the same way I did.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, in hindsight, like looking at it and watching, like, yeah, I do know Perry for a long time now, and I do feel bad and everything. But my inclination was, motherfucker. Like, thank God I wasn't there almost, in that way. But yeah, I got super protective. I got super sad that it's happening to
So sad.
on the whole
For everybody.
band level. Yeah.
For everybody.
I started feeling bad for you, for the people that I know on the crew, because I know what it means, what just happened, that it's not just about these two, you know.
This is over.
I also started feeling like, you're picking on the fucking guy to your side that's like, he's been sick and this and that. Like, why didn't you walk over to Eric's side? Like, I'm starting to think like that.
We know why.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or why didn't you walk back to Perkins, because
Yeah.
the obvious, you know what I mean? And I felt like Dave was being bullied. And when I see people being bullied, no matter who it is, my
React.
kids, whatever, I take it very personally.
It touches something very deep.
I'm getting hot.
Yes,
just
me too.
talking
Me too.
about it. So yeah, I felt very protective and very, and I got through to him pretty right away. And Dave was really rattled, obviously, and still is. You know what I mean?
We all are.
Yeah.
I told you, I have cried about this 5 or 6 times since it
Right.
happened
Yeah.
because it's so much bigger than just this one moment.
Right.
It means a lot obviously for my career, for their careers.
Right.
We had plans. This is supposed to go for
Right.
a couple more years.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
in an instant.
And was going great too. Like as far as like the shit that I was hearing, just because I have like a back door to in the know a little bit.
Yeah.
Like demos and rehearsals.
Oh,
and
there's so
shit.
much good
There was
shit.
so much good shit about to come.
There's
you know what I
there's
mean?
songs that they recorded that you guys just aren't ever going to hear.
Right. Yeah.
There's shows that you're not going to see.
Right.
Like I know that there's like a fingers crossed fan base, but like guys,
yeah.
it's done with.
And
But
I hope he can get help. You know what I mean? Because that's how I feel about that and his situation. But my knee jerk reaction, was let me get on the plane.
Right.
That was my knee jerk. Like literally told my wife I may have to fly out tonight. You know what I mean?
to kill it. No, I'm kidding. But like, I still don't know why. I still don't know why Dave or why. I just don't understand.
Well,
why
that's
it all
why
happened.
I bring that up. Is why Dave? You know what I mean?
Right.
Is it because that they've had heads knocking before? Is it because he's the guitar player? Is it because he's the one that's been sick and tired at shows? Is it because like he knows if I pick a fight with him, I can maybe win? I don't know.
Or maybe
I
there was
don't
no
know.
thought. Maybe it was maybe it was just reaction on Perry's
just-
part in the state he was in.
Right.
Just
One
like, there's a
like,
guy-
have you ever seen someone snap? Like whether they're fucking high or not or whatever? Because I've seen
I've
it.
snapped.
Yeah, I've seen it, and
Yeah,
it's
sure.
happened to me.
Of course.
And like sometimes you snap, and it could be like some poor sucker at the 7-Eleven you've never even met before. Like
now he's dead.
and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of
though,
course, of
like you
course.
fixate, and
We do it in traffic all the
your
time.
your entire world becomes funnel
Yes.
into that
Yep.
and just tunnel vision.
Yep.
You know.
Totally right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. But yeah, it's sad, and I hope all parties involved can get what they need to get better. And then the thing that I also was like a little knee jerky about too is like because I've been seeing the footage from the shows and
Sure,
stuff, and then
sure.
the rants of spirituality and these are my brothers and da 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 and all that kind
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff.
after the first New York show.
Yeah.
Before the rough one. I'm sorry.
After the rough
during the good one.
Right.
Perry came on stage and was talking about like brotherhood and having each other's backs, and he was referring to his bandmates.
Right. And
So
then to do that a
happened
couple
at the
a couple
next
of nights.
show?
Yeah.
like the
and
the next show.
yeah, it just makes me think he's a hypocrite. But that's my knee jerk. You know what I mean?
But
like,
once again, I'm gonna point out he was saying that in New York when he was level-headed,
Right.
and whatever sober or clean is. I have to say this,
Right,
and
right.
I don't want to be pointing fingers, but there is I just can't deal with this. Like he wasn't on anything. It's the band's fault.
Right.
It's the sound guy's fault. No, it wasn't.
Well, the spinning.
This falls on one. This falls
Right.
on one person.
Right. And the spinning that's been going on and the conjecture from other people who have no fucking clue.
And that's
as
kind
to
of
what's
why.
going on.
That's kind of why I asked you to come do this
I know,
too.
yeah.
Is because there is some stuff that needs to be set straight.
Right.
And now we kind of have to get into. We have it's going to be kind of a long show, but I want to get into the propaganda machine that kind of started right afterwards, if you don't mind.
No.
So I don't know if it was this. I think it was the same night, maybe the next day. Etty took to her Instagram to make a long post where basically, kind of sort of shit on the band, shit on Eric, shit on our sound team, who again is one of the best in the business.
Right.
Almost didn't know what I did for a living. I've known her for 17 years. She called me the stage manager. She called our drum tech, Mike, Kevin. Kevin hasn't been with us in 6 years. Like, it was all over the place.
Right.
And it kind of didn't really take any accountability for the main guy that did all this. I mean, I don't know if we should go through her thing piece by piece, but you read it. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, again, I wasn't there.
Yep.
So, but I do know how certain things work.
Yeah.
In the band,
Yeah.
I know in general, even just being around bands and stages and sets, and it immediately red flags went up in my head about, but wait, you know what I mean? Like those kind of things, like, but wait, he couldn't hear because the band was too loud. Well, doesn't he wear in-ears? Like things like that. Like I was immediately answering. So I was like, okay, this sounds like just spin stuff to me, like to try and place blame where instead of, hey, he needs help.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and we're sorry that this happened and we're all trying to heal. And, like, it just seemed finger pointy to me.
And she's talking about stage volume and that kind of thing. We had 33 shows booked on this tour. We were like, this was show 15. I forget how many it was, but we were 5 weeks into the tour. Every single day, we have an allotted time period during the day for the band to sound check. That's what sound checks are for.
Right.
If there's issues, you show up, you come. First of all, we started this at rehearsals before the tour.
Right.
I have to say, Perry never came to a single rehearsal the entire
Right. Yeah.
rehearsal schedule.
I heard
Didn't
that
come
as
to
well.
one.
Yeah.
The band came 5 or 6 times. He never came.
Right.
Which is fine if you show up and kick ass, but that wasn't completely the case. But again, there's sound checks every day. So Perry, my friend, if you're having issues on stage, you hire the best people in the world to help you with these things. Mm-hmm. If that was really the problem, come to sound check and figure it out.
Yeah, and figure it out. Right.
He never spoke to audio people about like, this is fucked. Mm-hmm. Not during the shows, nothing. Like when asked about it, how are things? Things are great.
Right.
Shows are great.
Yeah.
Well, what is it?
I mean, Dave told me personally, like he never said anything to me about it. It was the first that he had heard of it, that the band is too loud for him or anything. And then there was the other thing that was just weird. And again, I wasn't there. So this is just me and gut feelings. Like the people were cursing up to Perry, cursing at him, saying,
thank you.
The band is too loud. We can't hear you. Which,
people in the front row saying that.
Yeah, I mean, one, you were there, so you could speak a little better than me about it. But I've never been to a show where I'm in the front row and I'm like, hey, could you tell your guys
who does that
to tone it down so I could hear you? Like, it doesn't seem plausible.
So we had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm not saying that it didn't happen. Maybe it did.
Well, I'm going to say it didn't happen.
Okay, so there you go. But because I wasn't there, but it just sounds like bullshit to me.
We had a handful of Dark Matter fans and Rare Form fans at that show,
Right.
including I think 3 like long time like Dark Matter listeners in the front row. 2 of them who were not there together saw the post about Perry, we can't hear you. Turn up louder. 2 people hit me up and said, I just read this and I don't want to get involved, but I have to tell you, I was in the front row and nobody said that.
Yeah, nobody
So
did.
if anyone,
I mean,
if you guys want to find video, I would love to see where someone said that. But all the people I know that were there and people saying they were in the front row, that didn't happen because that's not a thing.
Right.
That was not a thing.
That was my take on it. Like, that's not a thing.
And that's also...
And you certainly don't yell at the talent to tell them. You say to your friend, like, I can't even hear the singer, like whatever.
Excuse
and then
me, Mr. Farrell. Hi, it's me, Joe.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way.
So I just read it with that grain of salt of like, well, this is just a spin and it's all bullshit if you ask me.
Now, I will also say this. there are times over my 17 years where the crowd can't hear Perry, and there's a reason for that as well. So there's a use a microphone here. Okay, here we go. Use this spindle here from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house.
Okay.
So if you're holding a microphone,
yeah, dude, you picked up the wrong.
I gotta
thing.
do. I don't know what to do. So microphones work best when they're in front of your mouth.
Get your meme generator ready, people. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's all dusty. Gross. So mics work great when it's in front of your mouth.
Right.
Perry has some cool techniques, and when he's on the mic, you hear him great. He does great, but he does a lot of like making his own dynamics of like making his voice trail off.
Right.
But otherwise, there's also times when we're getting to the technical part of why this is also bullshit. When he has it out here trying to sing and he's wondering why he can't hear himself, it's because his microphone is nowhere near his fucking face.
Right, right.
And this has been 17 years of... We've been fortunate to have like truly some of the best front of house guys, which is the sound guy that makes the people in the crowd hear the music.
Right.
We've truly had some of the best in the business. Every one of them has struggled with that part when Perry is not on the mic.
Right.
And this is the thing, not just with Perry, this is the thing with singers in general.
Right.
Any monitor engineer or front of house guy will tell you it's the hardest thing about working with singers is mic technique.
Right.
And this was no different. It was sort of kind of all over the place. And so chasing that historically, and there's been plenty of conversations where he has said, I'm having trouble hearing myself. And we've had monitor people for years, including our current people, having conversations of like, this is how a microphone, and not belittling him, but like this is how they work. When you're right here, we hear you great. When you even back off a couple inches, we lose so much, and then his mic starts picking up cymbals or bass or guitar, and it's not because the instruments are too loud. It's because we're using fantastic microphones that are for vocals that pick up every nuance of enunciation, and that's the whole point of it.
Right.
But when it's on your lips, it sounds great. And this is something that he struggled with for a long time. He has a tough time, honestly, trying to figure out how to even get his in-ears into his ears sometimes. When he'll kind of walk out and they're like dangling.
Right. They're not all the way in. Yeah.
Or not even in at all sometimes. And he thinks that they're in. So
from that,
again,
you're
not
saying,
trying to pick
no,
on him,
of
but,
course,
but these are legitimate problems that he's in total control of, and to point blame at anyone else. And I'm not just being biased because like I technically work for two guys directly. I work for the whole band.
Right, of course.
I'm very clear.
Yeah.
Perry pays me as much as Dave or Eric does, and Perkins, and like the collective of Janes pays my salary.
You work for the band.
I care about all of them.
Yeah.
If at any point during the day Perry asks me to do a favor, I will do it without even thinking about it.
Right.
I enjoy Perry. I've had great talks with him. He sent me a beautiful text the other day, like a very, very like basically I'll miss you kind of text.
Right.
You know, he's a good dude most of the time. And then there's times when it's kind of this, but we've never seen this crazed version before, which is what makes it so scary.
Well, it's funny because just to, I was having a conversation with Dave that just reminded me of that. And we were talking about the footage, about what had happened. And he said to me, like, you see where I'm playing, and then I kind of put my hand out after he kind of body checks me, and then he throws that punch, and you see the look of shock on my face. And this is Dave saying this. He's like, it's weird because I wasn't shocked that he body checked me. He wasn't shocked that he threw a punch at him. He was shocked by the crazed look in Perry's eyes that he's never seen before.
It was completely different.
Yeah. Like, he was like, I was seeing something demonic going on. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Which,
and that's where the shocked look from Dave came from.
There was it's one of the most, this has been a very surreal thing because this clip that has gone weirdly viral. I don't totally understand why it's everywhere, but it was on. The crew went to dinner or to breakfast the next day. I wasn't there
because people are ghouls. That's
maybe.
Why.
The next day, a lot of the crew went to breakfast, and I was at the hotel, and they were sitting at like a diner or something, and it played on Fox News. Like the clip was on Fox News, CNN.
It was on Bill Maher.
Bill Maher, which I was stoked about.
Yeah.
Stern talked about it. So it's been
even
insane.
Stern was like, upset by it.
Yeah.
Because he's had them on the show several times individually as Janes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even he was like, you know, you can't walk up to your guitar player when he's looking down playing and go after him.
Right.
Like, you just can't do that. You know?
And we'll be seeing this clip for the rest of our lives. I don't know what the point I was trying to make was. What were we talking about before that? Fuck. I don't know, but something funny. I went to the LA Rams football game yesterday. They played the 49ers, went with Chris Chaney and a couple other friends. And at the end of the game, we ended up in the private suite of Matt Stone, who created South Park, half of South Park. So hung with him at the end. And Chaney was talking to him about stuff, and Matt brought up the Janes thing. And Chaney goes, well, dude, as a matter of fact, my buddy Dan here you just met, he's the one that broke up the fight.
Right.
And I was talking to Matt about that, and he was like, you know, I've known Perry for a while, like peripherally, no pun intended. But he goes, that was really, really sad to see.
Yeah.
Because I don't really understand that. I said, none of us do. But I did say to him when I was saying goodbye, I said, by the way, I kicked myself if I didn't tell you that I've been a fan of what you do from day one.
Right.
And I would love if you put this segment in a new episode. I want to see it on South Park.
Right.
He laughed and said, he goes, it's not a bad idea, but honestly, it bums me out too much.
Yeah.
And I think that's collectively how everyone feels.
And me too.
Before I say that, after it happened, the band released a statement on Instagram that Dave kind of shared. And it was basically saying that, like, we hope that our singer, we hope that Perry gets help that he needs.
Right.
Because there's something going on.
Right.
And that is how all of us feel.
Right.
Like, no one's really trying to demonize or villainize a word or make him out. But he did kind of do this. But sincerely, I know this band is over with, but I really do hope that he's able to figure out. And I'm not trying to just rip on him and Etty this whole time, but like, she puts out this kind of statement that's just trying to almost like get in front of a story.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
But it wasn't even really
work.
necessary. That's the thing, to do that.
Well,
it's like,
it is
hey,
if you're in the wrong.
Yeah,
you know?
but it's not even like, hey,
like OJ being like, Nicole swung first. It's like, well,
yeah, but
no.
but it's not necessarily necessary in the sense that, like, we all collectively feel the same way, right? Like, my knee jerk was my knee jerk.
It's so sad.
And I wanted to, you know, do what I wanted to do, and you know, very quickly it becomes, it's actually sad, and it's actually sad for everybody, and I'm actually feeling bad for him, you know, like, who's the victim here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to play that game, but just to spinning it is one thing, blaming is another.
Yeah.
And like, it's so obvious, and it was unnecessary, because you just say, hey, I had a fucking moment. I'm sorry. Like, hopefully everybody's okay. I'm going to get the help I need, that kind of thing. But to try and get in front of it, it put a bad taste in my mouth.
I will say, I think that Perry's apology that was posted on Instagram, I do think that was heartfelt.
Yeah.
And I really do believe, I know for sure, because I've checked in, I know that he's hurting.
Yeah,
and I understand that.
Yeah.
And I feel if I could take that away, I'm sure we would all love to take that away.
Right.
But he's going to go through it for a while. And it sucks, but I do hope he gets the help. And I do appreciate all him and Etty have done. I appreciate what the band has done. Right. But it's just a very unfortunate, crazy thing. I'm happy we're able to kind of break it down a bit and just kind of set some things straight.
Yeah.
One of the things that was in that her Instagram post that kind of made my ears perk up is when she said that Perry, you know, he reached his breaking point and lashed out. Well, that's interesting because he did quit before the first show.
Yeah, that's why I brought that up.
I mean, 5 weeks earlier.
It was that statement that made me think that. Like, I immediately thought to wait, breaking point, like, before they even went out and did one show in this country, he'd already quit. So, like,
not even quit. So I did not hear this with my own ears, but someone in our camp was standing there when someone in the Farrell camp made a passing thing that they were going to sue the band members for breach of contract because they couldn't use
the footage
of her. So again, this is like, you're setting a precedent. This is the foot you're going forward with on day one of tour. Mm-hmm. And so your breaking point is not 5 weeks later. Like this started
right
August 8th and ended September 13th.
Right.
on Friday the 13th. Happy birthday, Perkins. So after the show, like I'm sitting there with like my friends and family, and like usually after a show we'd be hanging out talking about all kinds of stuff, and everyone's just like staring at me like, what was that? What was that?
Yeah.
And Perkins came out. My friends and family sang "Happy Birthday" to Perkins.
Right.
And like he was being super cool, but obviously he's sad. So we hung out after and we ate Perkins' birthday cake. And it was just so surreal. It's a picture of his happy face, but all of us are like, oh, we're going home. I think this is, but it's very surreal, very odd, very sad. And again, like we'll be seeing these clips for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so wild. But happy we could talk about it. Anything else that you want to add?
No, that's it. I mean, like I said, I'm a peripheral character, and I'm Dave's friend. I've been to a couple shows.
But you are in the James family.
Yeah, in that sense, yeah. And I'm bummed just as much as any other fan is. I feel for the three guys collectively. I feel for Dave. Obviously, he's my best friend.
Of course.
And like and I feel for Perry and Etsy.
Yes.
And
100%.
all of you
and
guys.
their kids.
Yeah.
Perry's son was there as well.
Right.
His son was there. And I saw him afterwards, and he's just kind of, the Farrells are kind of out of, I think they're probably on the bus, and he's kind of getting stuff together. And I walked up to him because like, that must be hard. I put my hand on his shoulder and I was like, how are you doing? He goes, I don't know.
Right.
He goes, I don't know. I said, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna get through this.
That's
I said, I'm sorry that you had to see that. It seemed like he was doing all right. But like, again, there's so much, this affects more than just
it's a ripple effect.
So many people and the fan base and people that were there that saw it in person.
Yeah.
It's
and
traumatizing.
People who were going to see them, like.
Yes. How many messages I've got of people being like, I should have come to one of the earlier shows. I should have come.
Right.
Well, yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
And again, you never know. Don't know what you got till it's gone.
Right.
And definitely feeling that lately. But you'll hear more from these guys. There'll be more music.
Yeah.
One way or another. But it's just we're in a very weird gray area at the moment.
Transitional period.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I hope the best for everybody involved, and I know the guys are trying to figure out how to move forward.
Yep.
And not stay stagnant in this and not have this be the defining,
That's one of the things I said in one of my posts is I hate that at the moment this is what James is going to be known for.
Right.
At the moment, they deserve a much different ending than this. This should have been something where they did a show in LA with their friends and family watching, everyone crying for the right reasons, taking a bow together as brothers, and like taking the moment in and like looking at a crowd and looking at each other with pride and like, we're buttoning this up, we're putting it to bed on our terms. This ended on nobody's terms. It just feels like a car accident. It feels like losing someone in a tragic way.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And that's it.
And that's all.
I want to end with a positive thing. It's been our fans have been incredibly cool. The like Rare Form and Dark Matter people have jumped in right away to start supporting this show, which thank you very much. We have a bunch of new patrons to welcome before we say goodbye. A bunch of people, but including Abby, Amber, who we've known for many, many years. Thank you so much, Amber. Marianne, who I gave Eric's final set list to in Boston. Hope you enjoy that, Marianne. Karen, Richard Ness upgraded his thing, and a whole bunch of brand new people. Thank you for supporting this show and supporting us. Since we are unemployed, we really do appreciate it. That's it. Keep them coming. I don't want to starve to death. I'm just kidding. But thank you guys for the support, and thank you for coming and doing this. And
yeah, man.
I like hearing your perspective too, because you're in, but you're out.
Right.
So you have a whole different thing for it, and you know Dave in a way that not even I do. So it must have been hard for you as well.
Yeah, it was.
What did the kids think? What did your kids feel about it?
They were upset by it too. There wasn't any like, oh wow, there wasn't any like, they're old enough now, and they're like, is Uncle Dave okay? That was, the big takeaway for them is I just want to make sure Uncle Dave is cool.
Right. Right.
But yeah, they were, it's upsetting.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and they don't look at him at all like the guy from Jane's Addiction or a guitar player or, you know what I mean? They just look at it like there's, dad's friend got into a fight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Even though they know.
Even I can relate to that a little bit.
Yeah,
Even though I literally do that for him for a living.
Right.
In this moment, I'm like, that's not my boss. That's my buddy.
Yeah.
That's my brother up there.
My wife, my kids, they were all like, the first thing is he okay? Even with my knee-jerk reaction, my wife was like, if you need to go, like fly out in the morning, go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
It's become a meme too.
Yeah. Some of them are pretty fucking funny.
There are some funny ones.
There are some good ones.
There are some funny ones out there.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've done enough.
Yes.
Thank you, Todd Newman.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Heartthrob. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll be back next week with an all-new episode.
This is Lola, and I'm here to tell the world to stop being such pussies and listen to Rare Form Radio.